Hello, my name is Thaïs Cristófaro Silva, and this is a joint paper with Wellington Mendes, and our title is Plural Formation in English, a Brazilian Portuguese case study. As we all know, English plural suffixes and also third-person singular present have a prediction as to how regular forms have the suffix pronounced. When you have a voiceless consonant, we take s. When you have a voiced consonant vowel diphthong, we take z. And when sibilants and affricates occur, we take is. What we were concerned in our paper was how the pronunciation of the word final consonant S would occur in English, spoken by Brazilian learners. And we also concerned about the orthography for the plural in English and Brazilian Portuguese. Why? As you can see in the top table, English has two different orthographic patterns, CES as in cakes or cubes, and CS as in books or jobs. And in Brazilian Portuguese, you only have one orthographic pattern, which is CES, and we say cheques in clubes. The difference is that Brazilian Portuguese doesn't have the voicing assimilation, and another difference is that English doesn't have an epenthetic vowel between the two word final consonants, but Brazilian Portuguese may do, as it's shown at the bottom table. So in Brazilian Portuguese, what we have is we can say clubes or clubes or dukes and duques. So this epenthetic vowel occurs, and we wanted to figure out if a similar pattern would occur in English. So we investigated the production of plural forms in English by Brazilian Portuguese speakers, mainly looking at the potential of an epenthetic vowel to occur. And we also assess how orthographic and phonological representations are related. Mainly, we were concerned if different orthographic patterns would trigger different pronunciations. As we've seen in English, you have two different orthographic patterns. How did we get there? Work on the past tense mainly showed that Brazilian Portuguese speakers tend to insert a vowel when two consonants occur word finally. So instead of saying something like moved, Brazilians say movage. So that epenthetic vowel occurs. And these works that we've listed suggest that it's the orthographic vowel that would trigger that. So the presence of a letter representing a vowel would trigger the vowel to be pronounced. On the other hand, some works on the present tense did not consider whether or not a vowel would occur. They were rather concerned with voice agreement. And so they were concerned whether in cakes the S would be pronounced as S, and in dogs would Z occur. And why they were concerned with this voicing? Because there is a voicing assimilation process across words in Brazilian Portuguese. So when you get something like in Brazilian Portuguese, a word that ends in S and the next one begins with a vowel, that S becomes Z. Let's say if we have clubes, clubes azuis. So you get the S becomes a Z. So these works then concentrated on looking voice assimilation rather than looking whether or not a vowel would occur between the two word final consonants. And that's what we looked at. And what was our theoretical background? Example models. And why? Because epenthesis is seen as subphonemic, which is not present in the phonological representation. And example models assume that detailed representations are part of phonological representations. There are other issues as well, like dynamic representations, which suit well the development of pronunciation or language acquisition in L2. And this model also accommodates the revised speech learning model, which was recently presented by Flagg and Bone. So finally, this model represents orthography as part of mental representations, whereas in formal models, orthography is far apart from the phonological modeling. The methodology: 6 high school students, intermediate level of L2. The experiment was designed to assess the production of plural nouns in L1 Brazilian Portuguese and L2 English. They were, of course, all native speakers of Brazilian Portuguese. There were 2 tasks: a picture counting task, where students had to say 2 maps, 3 maps, and a reading task where orthography was present. In the picture counting task, as shown in the picture as well, there were cases where there was the input like there were slots where they had to fill in with the what the figure showed. For example, 2 maps are seen. Okay, why did we look at the sentences and not just isolated words? Because as I mentioned, there is this voicing in word boundaries where a word final S becomes Z when followed by a vowel. So that's why we examined word finally and then when followed by a vowel. So these are the contexts then. The top table is for CS and the bottom one for CZ, and the consonant S was examined word finally followed by a vowel, and then when an epenthesis occurred, word finally, when a epenthesis occurred, word finally followed by a vowel. And the same for the Z nouns, CZ nouns. Results. The result in the white bar is for Brazilian Portuguese, and it shows that CS, something like clubs, occur in 62% of cases, but nevertheless 38% of epenthetic vowels. When we moved to look at the English results on the black and gray bars, what we see is that in the black bar, the pattern which presents an orthographic vowel, CES, something like cakes, presents around 17% of epenthetic vowels, and of course 83% of no epenthetic vowel. However, if there is no vowel in the orthography, the epenthesis rate falls down to 4%. What it shows is that the presence of a vowel in the orthography has an impact on how students pronounce the examined cases. So another interesting result we had was that no significant difference were found between the picture counting task and reading task, showing that it's not the task that plays a role, but rather the orthography. Well, let's look at what's expected in terms of pattern and what we get. The top part of that table shows that when an S is expected, we get S at very high rates. For example, word finally is 100% of S. That would be case like cakes. And why is that? Because in Brazilian Portuguese only S occurs word finally. However, when a vowel follows that S, you may get like 96% of CS, And when an epenthetic vowel occurs, 90%, and when an epenthetic vowel occurs followed by a vowel, 81%. So that's a very robust pattern to have word final S as expected in nouns that end in a voiceless consonant. And what happens when it's the voiced consonant and the Z is expected? Word finally is very low rates, 14%. So that's acquired, or it's established as Z. When it's followed by a vowel, when you would expect the assimilation across word boundaries to apply, we only get 41%. And when an epenthetic vowel occurs, we get 44% of the. And when an epenthetic vowel occurs, and it's also followed by a vowel, 60%. What we've seen is that word finally, it's very rare to get a Z sound, like 14%. But if it's followed by a vowel, or if it's preceded by a vowel assimilation, maybe the voice of the vowel contributes for that to occur. Conclusions. Plural formation in L2 English is influenced by orthographic patterns. An epenthetic vowel is more prone to occur when the pattern is CES rather than CS. Visual access to orthographic forms did not influence a vowel to occur, suggesting that orthographic patterns have a permanent impact on literate individuals' mental representations. Robust patterns from L1 are adopted in L2, including fine phonetic detail that reflects subphonemic properties. Z poses a challenge to Brazilian speakers of L2 English since it has no examples from L1. Better generalizations are posted when plural formation is assessed globally rather than accounting for epenthesis in voice agreement as a related phenomenon. If we have a global look at it, we understand more how epenthesis in voice agreement occur. This is a diagram from example models for L2 phonology. Just to illustrate it, we can get back to it in question time. Suggestions for L2 pronunciation teaching. Show students that in Brazilian Portuguese, English as a second language, the CES orthographic pattern influences high rates of CIS and epenthetic vowel rather than the orthographic pattern that's CS. Consider CS nouns to indicate that an epenthetic vowel, CIS, is not a pattern that occurs in English, whereas CS is largely attested. Present voiced sibilants as a recurrent morpheme in English and practice it adjacently to both voiced and voiceless segments. Present to students the generalization concerning plural formation in English. Nouns that end in voiceless consonants take S, whereas nouns that end in voiced consonants take Z. Inform that this information is not available in dictionaries, and that's tricky because the students don't know whether it would be the S or Z, as it's not present in dictionary, and that information is relevant to them. We thank you very much, and we look forward to your questions.